Hey there, Skullheads. I'm Snags.
And I'm Ol Silky.
And we're doing a funk episode today. It's funk time.
People, if you stay funky, then you don't have to get funky. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So
It's very true.
we definitely want to mention the passing of Brian Wilson. And bizarrely, right after we did our Beach Boys episode. And
We
and
killed
then
him.
this
We killed
this
Brian
funk
Wilson.
episode has been scheduled for 2 months.
Yeah,
And,
we scheduled this funk episode already, and then Sly Stone dies. So be careful if we do an episode about you. Your time is probably up.
You may be on your way out. So this is dedicated to Sly. Without Sly, there'd be no Prince. Just on and on.
Oh yeah, but he mainstreamed the funk.
Yeah. So funk was commonly used to describe jazz music, earthy or deeply felt, funky or funk, and
or people who didn't take baths.
Right? Yeah, there's that. But it's basically a genre of dance music popularized in the 70s, stemming from everything before it: soul, R&B, jazz music of the mid 60s, heavy on rhythm and bass, much like hip hop. We were talking about this earlier, that funk is far more than music. It's an attitude, a style, clothing, reflecting social, political changes. It's all consuming. But you could compare that to how metal is a way of life. There's people that are real punks with maybe don't have the dyed hair anymore, but they're definitely still very much the punk attitude.
Yeah. A lot of these genres are a lifestyle for sure.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I think it's healthy to wear different hats. I mean, I'm a metalhead to my core, but out of that comes all the love of the rockabilly, the classic country, the blues and jazz. It's all, many hats to wear. But so we want to talk about James.
Have never seen me because this isn't. I just want to say though, like, you're a metalhead. You guys have never seen me because this is a audio only podcast. But I dress like a pimp every day with a cane and a big pimp hat. So I'm totally orange, funk. Yeah, funk is my lifestyle.
The totally. Solid orange fur jacket.
Pimp. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Pimp. But like I said,
anyways,
if you stay funky, you don't have to get funky. But James Brown.
Did Yoda? I think Yoda said that.
Yoda said that.
Yeah.
James Brown is widely considered the godfather of funk. One thing about JB, he was always on. It was never come off the stage and he's, suddenly relaxed or what. He was always James Brown, the consummate performer, always like the hardest working man in show business, I believe is his moniker. But he was famous.
While he was recording in the studio, Bootsy Collins said even then, when they would go into a rhythm break, he would just start doing his stage dance in the studio.
Yeah.
Like, he just never turned off.
No, he never turned off. He was famous for docking pay if he heard a flat note or a miscue, which I believe Ike Turner did the same thing. It may have been something from the 50s that you just learned coming up that you hear some and be like, hey, that if James Brown gave you a side eye, you knew you were going to hear about it after the show.
You would see him flash like 5 fingers at one of his band members, and that's $5 off. You missed a beat, $5 deduction. Yeah,
it's just so good. But he'd be on stage doing his thing, and he'd after Please 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 or Try Me, and he'd like collapse on the stage, and like he'd just given everything he got, and the guy would come out and throw the robe on him and try to help him off stage, and then he'd just throw the robe off and come back 3 or 4 times, driving all these damn little girls crazy that are seeing him at the Apollo or whatever. He just had such a stage. He just worked that stage, worked the audience. So many people from Mick Jagger to Roger Daltrey, excuse me, would take influence from just his stage presence.
Roger Waters would be the anti-James
That's
Brown.
A whole other. Roger Waters is still trying to figure out why his father died.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you know his father died in World War II?
Apparently, he doesn't realize that everybody's fathers
dies eventually. Yeah.
Anyways,
back to the funk.
So JB was just the baddest of the bad. Coming out of the tumultuous 60s, Vietnam, civil rights, just so much was going on that it would all play a pivotal role in inspiring and uplifting Black Americans in that struggle for equality. And the music reflects all of that. All your funk music, to me, just was a natural offshoot of what was going on day to day. You and I both grew up in pretty scarce, sparse housing. I grew up in the row houses in Baltimore. My mom was a welder at the shipyards. I felt very included watching like Good Times, What's Happening, even the Jeffersons, and not realizing those shows, had never been on TV before. You didn't have anything representing middle America Black families.
I was raised by hippies out in the woods, so
Yeah.
Bigfoot movies brought it home for me.
Well, seeing Andre the Giant as Bigfoot was the highlight of your.
Yeah. It's like that's just like my childhood.
But yeah, James Brown would create this signature groove, emphasizing the rhythmic patterns and syncopation in all the instruments on the first beat, and that would kind of revolutionize a type of sound that became funk music. Lyrics would raise the hopes and empower his fans. Songs like Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. Even Get Up Off of That Thing, Dance and You'll Feel Better. His stuff was just so positive, and it just created everything else. It was just, you just had to be all in. You couldn't just hear a little funk music and be like, it grabbed you. It was very contagious. That's the word I was looking for. And then we got to mention 70s blaxploitation movies. These movies would provide the image, the soundtrack for a generation. Stuff like Shaft, Foxy Brown, Sheba Baby, Hell Up in Harlem, Cotton Comes to Harlem, Coffee, Across 110th Street. That's one of my favorites. Black Caesar, Dolomite, The Mac, Truck Turner, Superfly, Cooley High, Cleopatra Jones, Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, Blackula. Did I miss anybody?
Oh, there's always more.
Yeah, there's tons more, but I mean, I just wanted to rattle off a bunch of them. These movies, throughout the 70s, they had just fantastic actors. Usually the white guy was the bad guy. And directors, people, just the scores done by Curtis Mayfield, all kinds of
James Brown,
yeah,
Isaac Hayes, yeah.
They would just lend these amazing.
We had a tradition back in the 90s. You and I did Blaxploitation Saturday for about a year. Every week we go rent a blaxploitation movie.
Yeah, and then eat burritos from
Friolaros
I don't remember.
There's Friolaros, Tortillas, Eats. There was a lot of burrito joints. Yeah,
Tortillas was the one. That was it.
Yeah, those burritos were the size of a small baby.
Yeah, but like I said, this shit was endless. These classic movies. William Marshall played Blackula. You had Fred Williamson. Tamara Dobson was Cleopatra Jones. Isaac Hayes was Truck Turner. Pam Grier, she was in a bunch of movies. I think Pam Grier at one point was the highest paid action star in the 70s. Richard Roundtree, Rudy Ray Moore, just to name a few of the recurring people. It was just epic. These movies, the music, the soundtracks, just helping to do two things: to spotlight people's situation, that maybe you're in the suburbs and feeling like you're not making it, and then you see one of these movies, you're like, shit, it's not that bad. Sometimes maybe they were doing better than you were. It just, in life, the grass is always greener. But anyway, James Brown's steady groove format would influence many, like we said. We want to talk about Sly and the Family Stone. Do you have anything else to add about James Brown?
No, I mean, he was the godfather. He was the one. He was the one who popularized the one. So it's the emphasis on the first beat out of 4, and his logic for that was people were waltzing to all this honky music, where the emphasis was on the 2 and the 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want no motherfuckers waltzing to my music, so I emphasize the 1, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Yeah. And the classic example of that is Parliament, because they picked up on it, because Bootsy went from James Brown to Parliament. Yeah. And he taught George Clinton about the 1, and you can hear, we want the funk. Okay. Gotta have that funk.
That's the 1.
The hitting the 1.
Yeah.
And so that's very important aspect. What James Brown contributed was popularizing the 1. That's very important.
I like that example.
Yeah.
James, you got to mention Maceo Parker.
Yeah.
So many people with James Brown, but Sly and the Family Stone, epic band. Sly would have dominated the 70s if his addictions and demons had not gotten in the way.
And even then, he released a pretty substantial discography just from the late 60s to the early 70s.
Yeah, up to 83. He was steady,
Yeah,
active.
he's a good handful of
Was,
albums from the
yeah,
first Dance to the Music up through There's a Riot Going On, and some songs after that. No full
yeah.
albums after that one, but still some
Stand
songs.
was great. Fresh was good.
Yeah,
Um, there's a riot going on. I love that record.
yeah.
Um, but Stand was my goddamn that album. Anyway, uh, so
And
Sly was singer, producer, multi instrumentalist. Um, one thing he would do on the tours, people would get backstage and be a party, and he would see you with your girl, and he would tell the guy, you need to be with that girl, and then he would take uh the guy's girl and put her with somebody else, and he, just his power, and this couple that showed up together, they're you know they're
well,
now,
that was like every party in the '70s, anyways.
yeah, the swinger thing, but that
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was just, it was one thing that I had read about. He loved to do that. He loved to uh, use that power and see if he could get a couple to
Well,
get a
if we're
together.
talking about Sly and the Family Stone, we got to talk about Larry Graham, because
Oh yeah,
he basically invented the thumb popping, the bump, 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 bump sound that you
yeah,
get
just
on
that
so many
thump
funk.
bass.
Yeah, and
Uh,
specifically slapping that bottom string with his thumb.
yeah,
And uh, he's the first one who popularized that. I'm sure somebody somewhere did it before, but it's like Eddie Van Halen with the finger tapping.
right, right.
Someone may have done that before, some flamenco guitarist somewhere, but Eddie Van Halen, he does it, and everybody starts doing it. Larry
Yeah,
Graham was the Eddie Van Halen of funk
yeah.
bass, you know.
It takes somebody just manages to make everybody go, damn. What is that? And then it
Yeah,
just snowballs. But you had Sly Stone, Freddie Stone on guitar, Rose Stone on keyboards, Cynthia Robinson on trumpet, Greg Arico on drums, Jerry Martini on sax, and Larry Graham. Uh, I'm gonna add some bottom.
the mighty
God
Larry
damn,
Graham. So the two heroes of bass guitar of the funk movement are Larry Graham with
Bootsy.
Sly and the Family Stone, and then the Graham Central Station, and then Bootsy Collins. A couple years with James Brown, the rest of the '70s with Parliament-Funkadelic, and then Bootsy's Rubber Band was his solo
Solo
project.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's actually a video on YouTube of Larry Graham and Bootsy Collins jamming together, which is
Oh,
pretty righteous. I'll have to find that and put it on the click pit.
yeah, that's fucking wicked.
Yeah.
One of the I guess the blueprint or stencil of, I compiled a funk playlist. Um, was Rhino put out a history of funk, volume
Yeah.
1 through 5 or something like that.
That's what got us on it in the
Uh,
90s,
it
back in
was
the
it was
90s.
so it was so crucial to have those, and it was called "In Your Face: History of Funk."
Yeah.
And one of my favorite songs off of there was a song called "Garbage Man" by the Family Vibes, and that song is just nowhere on the streaming platforms. So I emailed a YouTube for Snags to throw in with everything else tonight. Um, that song, I knew that song as a little kid, and I just thought it was so funny. Is the story in the song is a guy, he's a garbage man. He's just picking through all his stuff, trying to impress some girl on his route, and he's got like a picture tube. It doesn't have a picture in it, but it, it's still together. Just little shit. He's trying to offer her some curtains, and it always cracked me up.
What's the
But
name of that one again?
it's called "Garbage Man" by the Family Vibe.
Got it.
That song is so good. It's a shame that's the only one I think from that whole set that I couldn't find. But like we were saying, Sly and the Family, they were the first major American rock group to be racially integrated and a mixed gender lineup. Now, other mixed bands that come to mind are the Allman Brothers, Paul Butterfield Blues Band, Frank Zappa, the Jimi Hendrix Experience. But I don't know too many that had a female in there. I mean, you could say Black Flag, but that's years later.
Yeah, well, and actually, in the new wave movement is really where you saw a lot of girls showing up in bands. New wave indie rock of the late '70s, early '80s.
Yeah,
Tina Weymouth and the Talking Heads and all that
yeah.
shit. Yeah,
right. So Sly, just again, epic shit. I know he started as a DJ on a radio.
He was also a producer.
Yeah,
he produced records, and apparently, I think it was that Ted Templeman biography. He talks about working with Sly Stone and when he was in a band, and how Sly Stone was this is in the early '60s, like really square looking guy wearing a suit and everything, you know.
Wow.
And produced nothing like the Sly that manifested later.
Yeah, dance to the music, and I think those first two records, he wasn't quite wild looking yet.
Yeah, you see that with all these cats. The late '60s, they're still sporting that kind of Sam and Dave R&B look. Yeah. And then '70s come around and they've got the bell bottoms and the freaky, Bootsy Collins took it to the nth degree with the crazy shades and everything else.
That's what's funny with these bands. There's still a blues, Sam and Dave. I gotta just mention those fuckers really brought it. I would say Sam and Dave and maybe Junior Wells and Buddy Guy were the reason the Blues Brothers they really took from that.
Sam and Dave were literally maximum R&B.
Yeah,
that was real maximum R&B was fucking Sam and Dave. That shit, that playlist, my Sam and Dave playlist, is just every album back to back. There's no dead tracks.
Songs like "Can't You Find Another Way of Doing It, Baby? Can't you?" Yeah. That's funk, man.
Yeah. Well, it's proto funk. It was funky R&B. Yeah. They didn't really last into the height of the intergalactic funk era where everybody's getting really freaky.
Yeah. Parliament-Funkadelic got the spaceship and they went zooming off.
Yeah, they took it to a whole nother stratosphere.
The mothership. I know they used live. They would have this giant spaceship come down, and it had to just blow people's minds.
His whole theory was that black people were the original aliens that populated the planet, and they're the ones who built the pyramids and Easter Island and Stonehenge. And they came from outer space, so that's what that was all about.
There's some. I think this is down in Peru. They've talked about these terraces that go up like giant steps, and then all these little tiny steps along the side. And they've been there for 10,000 years. And somebody's like, "Look, these are steps by a much larger race. They're massive, and you can see these tourists all standing tiny like ants on these giant steps." And you start thinking about how the pyramids are now. They're saying that the pyramids are the very top of much larger structure below the sand. You start going, good God, what we could very well in the next 20, 30 years start discovering shit that does not
Well, George Clinton had it all figured out.
Died
Those
with her, and that's what I'm saying is
black aliens from outer space built
well,
all
there's
that.
a whole thing that this is we'd have to look this up, but there was a thing that the original black people had wings and could fly around and shit.
I'm sure George Clinton would approve of that for sure.
Yeah,
That's
it
right up
was
his alley.
similar to like Hawkman in the old DC comics.
Yeah.
Um, and somehow they lost their
Not not
wings.
not to be confused with Hawk Tuah girl. That's a
Oh yeah,
different.
no, that's a whole other chick.
Yeah.
But that the white devil burned their wings off or something. I don't know. Anyway, but Parliament-Funkadelic, make my funk the P funk. Headed by George Clinton, psychedelia, humor, space rock, funk, Afrofuturism. They just got deep, and what a
And
party!
he was the complete opposite. Like I remember watching some interview with Bootsy Collins where he was talking about they were thrilled to play with James Brown, but after a couple of years it was just crazy because they'd go out and just do these killer shows, just destroy the audience. And no matter how good they were, James Brown would come back stage afterwards and go, I don't know if you got it. I don't know. You just ain't cutting it. Just ain't cutting it. And they're like,
see, that's Muhammad Ali. He just would never the same.
Right.
They're from the same cloth, just break you
down.
But
they were like, are we crazy? He said him and his brother, Catfish Collins, the guitar player, they were like, are we crazy or is he crazy? Because one of us got to be crazy. And eventually they're like, James Brown's crazy. And so they go to play with George Clinton, and it was the complete opposite. He's just like, they make a mistake. Oh, I'm sorry about that. And, oh no, that's all part of the flow, man. It's all good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally.
So it's just one of them was a Nazi and the other one was a hippie, basically.
But I mean, by doing the five, that's five.
Yeah.
He made the whole band try harder.
Oh yeah. That band was tight as a fly's asshole.
Yeah. There's a great David Lee Roth story where the guys, the crew was taking forever to break down the sets, and David Lee Roth worked up an incentive program where the groupies that came backstage, they would get first pick after the band had taken their share of groupies if they were done. And so these guys that were taking like 6 hours to break a set down, they were breaking it down in an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Motivation, to get a crack at some of that.
Get some of them leftovers.
Yeah. Which is hilarious, but it's amazing
that's a total David Lee Roth approach to solving a problem.
It's amazing what incentive can do, man.
Yeah.
But so the other, we talked about Parliament. All of those records are stellar.
Oh yeah, I rock my P Funk. I got a P Funk playlist. It's just every album in order. One a Funkadelic album, then a Parliament album, then two Funkadelic. Yeah. It's all in order, all the way up through like the late '70s, and it's just it's a cosmic trip, man.
It's like Hawkwind meets Sly. I don't know.
Yeah, I never thought of that. I never thought of the Hawkwind analogy, but it's totally. Yeah, it's totally a soul brother version of Hawkwind, without a doubt.
Space rock. They would take influence from Star Trek. It was epic. Parliament-Funkadelic. If you're hearing this show tonight and you don't know who to check out, we got you covered with the accompanying playlist. We'll take you through Archie Bell and the Drells all the way to the Meters.
Silky made a funk playlist that's over 24 hours long, and it had people in there I'd never heard of. It covers everything from the R&B that's just cresting over into funk to the full-blooded just balls out funk up to verging on disco every now and then. You know
Yeah, it's a fine line. That's
that
what's so tough.
fine
Is
line
it is
between funk and disco, but it's got the whole scope,
yeah,
and you can just put that
it's a
shit on,
razor blade line that's
leave
with
that on
disco.
for 24 hours while you're working around the house, while you're sleeping, and
Dude, yeah.
it won't be over till tomorrow, but by the time it's over, you will be an encyclopedia of the funk.
Exactly. And listen, if you stay funky, you don't have to get funky.
Yeah,
I keep
this
saying
is
to
true.
people.
Yeah. And
You
Yoda
know,
said that. That's Yoda right there.
can I get a witness? So we got to mention Kool and the Gang out of Jersey City, New Jersey. They formed in
Jungle Boogie.
1964. Yeah, man. Robert Kool Bell, Ronald Bell, Dennis D.T. Thomas, Robert Mickens, Charles Smith, George Brown, Woody Sparrow, and Ricky Westfield. And Kool and the Gang were like jazz, R&B, soul, funk, disco, pop. That first album came out in 1969. Kool and the Gang were just phenomenal. They got that greatest hits that had Summer on it. Holy shit, it's a wicked ass song.
Yeah, I rock my Kool and the Gang playlist. Goes from the first album up to the late 70s, and it's just not a bad track on there. I mean, there's some slow songs, but you just dig the slow songs, slow soul songs, but it's just packed with funk jams, and they do some wild synthesizer stuff sometimes too, which is pretty cool.
That's what
and,
just
so my Kool and the Gang story is, Van Halen gets back together, since we're talking about David Lee Roth, and after there was no Van Halen activity of any kind from 1985 when they broke up until they got back together. As we all know, in 2007, nothing happened in between those years.
Right.
And so they do a tour in 2007, which I missed. And then they come back through Atlanta in 2011. Well, Dave had been at some festival that summer before the tour and saw Kool and the Gang. And he was like, holy shit, these guys are still just bringing it. And so he and this is a total David Lee Roth thing to do. He got them to open that tour for Van Halen.
Oh.
So I'm walking into the Phillips Arena, and there's this brother standing outside the door, one of the entrances that I'm going into, and he sees all these people pouring into Phillips Arena, and he's like, who's playing tonight? Who's playing? And I said, fucking Van Halen with Kool and the Gang opening. And he goes, that's a good show. I was like, no shit. And they fucking tore it up, man.
I bet.
It was great. It was Jungle Boogie and all that shit. Celebration. Shit fucking rock. It sounded just like them, didn't it?
It sure did. I thought I was listening to the Commodores when you celebrate good times. But
yeah. No, Celebration is Kool in the Gang.
Yeah. Summer Madness is the song I was talking about.
Right.
I knew I didn't have the full title. Summer Madness is just that keyboard just building.
Yeah. That's the one with the keyboard shit. Yeah.
Just melt your goddamn skull right off.
Right. Good Times. Electric Frog is pretty wild.
Yeah.
Funky Granny.
Hell yeah.
Funky stuff. Can't get enough of that funky stuff.
And of course,
Hollywood
Swinging.
Hollywood Swinging. Fucking just amazing shit, man. Spirit of the Boogie. You don't fuck with Spirit of the Boogie.
You don't.
No.
So from there, I wanted to mention the Ohio Players. Sexy erotic album covers all through the 70s. Most of those women were Playboy models.
Nice.
But I can remember being some of these drug dealers my mother hung out with we'd be over there and they'd have Ohio Player albums leaned up. Their albums are all just in stacks, leaned up. And I'd go over and start flipping through, and here's some smoking hot chick. They're dripping honey on her.
That album,
yeah,
that took about 5 hours to shoot. They just kept pouring honey on this chick, and she's on this plexiglass surface, and they just keep pouring. Oh, hold on, baby, we just got to get a little more honey on you. They were obviously digging, having fun with the photo shoot, so they just kept pouring honey on her.
That's funny.
By the end of it, she was stuck to the fucking plexiglass, and they had to go get hot water and pour that over her to melt the honey away. And God knows what happened after that.
That's tremendous. Yeah. But I can remember those different album covers.
Yeah,
as a kid, I'm like, oh my goodness.
Those are like the Roxy Music album covers, just erotic as hell. Yeah.
Dayton, Ohio, 67 to 22 is their active, but they had Funky Worm, Skin Tight, Fire. Fire is a jam.
Love Roller Coaster.
Yeah.
Love Roller Coaster
of Love.
Sounds just like it.
Great fucking shit. Ohio Players have to be mentioned in this. And then Tower of Power. These guys out of Oakland, East Bay, formed in 68. Their best known stuff is when Lenny Williams was singing So Very Hard to Go, You're Still a Young Man, What is Hip? What is Hip is just a fantastic title.
It's also the lyrics are great.
Yeah. But East Bay Grease, that first record is such a jam. Tower of Power. Uh-oh. El Condor.
Check out the website. We got mugs. We got T-shirts. We got a bunch of cool stuff.
Stickers.
Like Lego stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, stickers.
T-shirts.
Hoodies, and all that other stuff.
Stay funky.
All right. So I just got to lay down these lyrics from What Is Hip, because this is badass.
He sounds so excited, didn't he?
I know. It's a job for him now at this point. All right, ready?
Yeah.
So you want to jump out your trick bag and ease on into a hip bag, but you ain't sure exactly what is hip. So you start to let your hair grow. Spend big bucks to top your wardrobe. Somehow you know there's much more to the trip. What is hip? Tell me. Tell me. What is hip? If you're really hip, the passing years will show you're on a hip trip. Hipper than hip. What is hip? Anyways, it just goes on like that. Fucking killer song.
Yeah. That Tower of Power.
Part of the new breed. Been smoking only the best weed. Hanging out on the so-called hippie set. Been seen in all the right places. Seen with just the right faces. You should be satisfied, but still ain't quite right. Something blah, blah, blah.
Are you playing the record?
It sounds exactly like it, doesn't it?
That's what I'm saying.
I think it sounds more like if fucking Chuck D was rapping it. That's exactly.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, well, like a acapella.
I'm more Flavor Flav, but you get the idea.
So Tower of Power, holy shit, right?
Right.
Kind of a if you think of Blood, Sweat, and Tears, gone funk style. Same.
Yeah, well, their whole thing was that horn section. That was the Tower of Power. Was that fucking horn section? God damn.
So you got to jump. You got to mention Earth, Wind, and Fire, Chicago, and just these bands were spread across the country. Kool and the Gang in Jersey, Parliament-Funkadelic out in L.A., Tower Power up in Oakland, Earth, Wind, and Fire in Chicago. Now, Earth, Wind, and Fire, jazz, R&B, soul, funk, disc. These are the same genres like a lot of these other bands. They were just taken where they'd come from.
Right.
And to me, I always say the funk is with the guitar. Like, that's when it really just that jangle
it was
guitar.
this eighth note bam, 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 bam
Yeah,
thing, and then they lay down a wah wah pedal over it.
sure.
That with the drums and the bass, man. It was
But like
it,
you rock like Super Stupid from Maggot Brain,
yeah.
Funkadelic. Oh my god. It just drop a
Well,
bomb on you. Just that heavy
yeah. Someone was saying
fuzz guitar.
there's this documentary Finding the Funk, which I've watched most of. I was watching it just before we jumped on here, and I linked that from the Click Pit. But someone was saying basically Parliament-Funkadelic, their roots were that Band of Gypsies album.
Yeah.
You know,
I
you're
100%.
taking this R&B and adding this psychedelic. Hendrix basically psychedelicized R&B and took it into outer space,
Yeah.
and 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 you know, he dies and George Clinton picks up the mantle and just takes it
That Band of
intergalactic.
Gypsies album was tremendous.
Yeah.
So good. You know, him letting just for the drummer shit.
Buddy Miles.
Buddy Miles, him letting Buddy Miles had his solo album at the time, and so he had a hit with Them Changes, and Hendrix is like, hey, sing your hit. We don't have enough song. Like they got together and they had this gig, and they had a couple hours out at this you know, cabin out in the country, you know, to jam a little bit, and you know, that's why Buddy Miles is singing Them Changes, and it gave Hendrix a chance to just step back and play guitar for a while, and he rips it. And you know, Billy Cox on bass and Hendrix, and they did two sets New Year's Eve, and that record got released because he owed Capitol a live album, and so he just did that, and it was 6 songs, and you know, obviously the big one on that record is Machine Gun, 12-minute anti-Vietnam thing that Hendrix just destroys. The guitar work on that is stellar, but yeah, they were definitely a prototype for the whole punk or the whole funk thing, for sure. So that's Earth, Wind, and Fire. They have so many classic songs. Again, kind of R&B, soul, funk. It's all in there, you know.
Someone was making the analogy, and I think it's true. As Earth, Wind, and Fire kind of leaned towards the pop side of things, was that you know, they're both geniuses, and this is before Bill Cosby got they found out what he was up to. This is in 2012. Right. 2012.
Back when everyone loved Cosby.
Yeah, this is a 2012 documentary, but they're like Earth, Wind, and Fire is Bill Cosby, and P-Funk is Richard Pryor.
Gotcha.
Both geniuses. One of them appealed to the family set a little more, and the other one was just nasty.
Yeah, I mean, you go back Saturday morning, you would watch Fat Albert, and they had the Brown Hornet on there. It was like a superhero out in space and shit. That was just all part of it, and
all Junkyard Band, man, Fat Albert, yeah. Junkyard, that was some funky shit.
God, it was so good, you know. And each episode you had like a little moral thing, but I just loved all the characters, and it, in a way, for me, it allowed me to go to school, and maybe I was just in there with 20 other white kids, but by watching Fat Albert on Saturday mornings, I wasn't you know, pre-programmed to hate somebody that didn't look like me, you know. It all helped you stay rooted, you know, that everybody is to be judged by their character.
Yeah, Fat Albert. I was watching that shit too. It wasn't really a niche thing. I mean, everybody watched that shit back then.
Yeah, I would say it was Saturday morning. You just watched it and you loved it.
Yeah,
and you weren't like, oh, those are black people, But so now I want to go down to New Orleans, 1965. The Meters. They were from the late 60s up through 77.
Amazing band.
Another epic fucking band.
Yeah.
With and we've got them sprinkled throughout the playlist as well.
Yeah.
Love the Meters. And those are the bands that I had specifically wanted to discuss.
So the Meters, we gotta mention some of their songs. Sissy Strut is a killer tune.
Sissy Strut is fucking epic.
Yep. Look-a Pie. Let's see here. Hold on. Stay Away is a
Away. That's my jam. I like that one.
Killer jam. People Say is a killer jam.
Yeah.
Hey Pocky Away. Africa is a killer jam.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Fire on the Bayou. Funkify Your Life. I mean, and that's just a few, but those are the highlights. But my Meters
and the Aaron Neville was in that, right?
Yeah. Just complete albums up until like the late 70s. A lot of these bands, you get past the late 70s, it starts getting either disco-y or poppy.
Yeah, the 80s really went into like that Night at the Roller Rink kind of thing, where it was more disco.
The 80s were the most unfunky decade. Probably right up there with the 50s.
Yeah, the 80s really were tough on every genre. But except for metal. Metal really came into its own, 82, 83. It was a force to be reckoned with.
Hardcore punk, too, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, the funk stuff is just so fun. It's so good. A lot of memories. And like, we were talking about Sanford and Son and all those TV shows.
Sanford and Son theme song is one of the best funk jams ever.
Yeah. Barney Miller had a kick-ass funk bass line intro. It just permeated through everything. You'd had Love Boat. You got to have the funky bartender. It was everywhere.
Got to talk about. Why don't you talk about
Welcome
the whole
Back, Cotter?
Talk about the whole Watt Stacks thing.
Oh, I forgot about that. Watt Stacks. She had the Watts riots, and then they got everybody that was anybody to.
And who's they? Stax Records.
Well, Stax, all your Stax people, Isaac Hayes, Rufus Thomas, Irma Thomas.
Stax Records organized a concert, is what he's trying to say.
Yeah. Well, that was the part you were going to do, so you just sprung that on me.
I thought I was just supposed to bring it up. I didn't realize.
No. I saw the movie a long time ago,
right?
But they had to sing out in this huge stadium, and it was packed. And
I think it was the LA Coliseum.
Yeah, it really was a moment for all these people, and they finally had their own. You had your Woodstocks and all but here was a moment for everybody out there to have an outlet, something to see, and the epic thing in that movie, Isaac Hayes comes out. He's a big, solid dude, and he comes out with this gold chains around his neck. The image was it was just so iconic in that moment.
He did the theme from Shaft at the concert. Rufus Thomas played. Rufus Thomas is one of the funkiest mofos
Oh,
out there.
he's filthy. He
Yeah.
did the funky chicken and just it was epic, man.
Funky Broadway, all kinds of shit.
Yeah. What's great in that movie is you got the concert going on and somebody will play and then they'll cut to Richard Pryor sitting like in somebody's backyard and he's just talking and riffing and again there's an old record that I'm trying to remember who it was. It's these three blues guys, and at the time, no one had ever talked about how mistreated blacks were. It was always just pretending that everything was wonderful, and
well, not talking in public and not singing about it in public because you get killed.
Yeah, and this was a record with these guys talking about stories that they knew coming up or stuff they saw, and I had it years and years ago. The blues section at the Metronome down Monroe and Peachtree, Ansley
record
Mall,
store, yeah.
Metronome. Their blues section was fucking amazing, and I grabbed this record. It was like a Talkin blues thing, and it was three guys that were fairly big. I'm drawing a blank on who it was, but they were talking about some real shit, heavy stories, and so. Flash forward, what I was getting at is Pryor is not really trying to be stand up funny. He's talking about the situation, Watts riots, just current situation, early 70s, and shit was still pretty heavy. You had the Black Panthers around. I mean, people trying to just, God damn it, enough's enough,
I'm gonna link that Watt Stacks from the website.
Pryor doesn't. He's got the gloves off. He's just dropping knowledge, and it's really good to see. Even now, you can watch it and be like, "Damn, not much has changed." It's a fucking shame. But that's the other things. Watt Stacks. We wanted to have to mention that in a funk episode. And that I don't want to say that was the end, but that was certainly, as to my knowledge, that was like a big moment in the whole genre to have that Watt Stacks.
Barkays played, Eddie Floyd. There's a lot of people.
Staple Singers. I mean, that's another one. The Staple Singers, they're amazing. But the other thing we would mention is the riots that they were almost about to happen in Detroit. And James Brown went on the air, the radio station. He was going to play his music, and he told people, stay home and listen to my show. And there were plenty of people there at the show. But he got the mayor to come down to the arena and show his face in front of all these fans of James Brown. And, James Brown worked it into the show of just, hey, man, this guy's doing the best he can. You all need to just, chill out.
All right. So I just AI'd that one. Here's all the details on that because you're right to bring that up. That's a great story about the funk doing some good. So April 5th, 1968, the day after Martin Luther King got assassinated by the government. James Brown performed a concert in Boston that is credited with preventing a riot.
Boston. I thought it was Detroit. Okay.
Riots had erupted in over 100 U.S. cities, and Boston was on edge, with tensions high and fears of violence escalating. City officials initially wanted to cancel James Brown's show at Boston Garden, but Brown and his promoter, along with Mayor Kevin White, agreed to keep it on, recognizing its potential to calm the situation. Brown's performance that night was electrifying, but what made it historic was his direct engagement with the audience. As emotions ran high, some fans began climbing onto the stage. Police moved in, but Brown intervened, urging them to back off and speaking directly to the crowd. He asked for respect, saying, "We're black. Don't make us all look bad. Let me finish the show." He encouraged unity. His words and presence de-escalated the situation. The crowd responded positively. The concert
and that footage you can see that on YouTube.
The concert was broadcast live on local TV and radio. A decision made to keep people at home and off the streets. It reached an estimated 2 million viewers and listeners, amplifying its impact. Brown's call for peace resonated, and Boston remained relatively calm that night. Brown,
and they would have burned that shit down.
Yeah. Brown reflected on the event as a moment of immense responsibility, saying he felt compelled to keep the city from burning. His ability to connect with the audience through the music turned a potential flashpoint into a moment of unity. So that's a good bookend. You know, we started talking about James Brown and we're kind of looping back around. That motherfucker had power.
He did. And the footage, it's I rented that one night. Shout Factory puts a lot of this stuff out. There was a DVD. I rented it from Netflix. And when they still rented DVDs, and it was epic. It was so good. Whole concert, James Brown, 1968, doing all his stuff and stopping and dealing with the crowd and getting the mayor to come out. It was historic shit.
Yep.
So
I concur.
But yeah, that's the funk, kids.
Yep. So there you have it. We just laid down the funk for you.
Yeah. It would have been nice to have maybe somebody from that time that might have been 10 years older to, share stories or something. But I think we did a good representation.
Well, you and I have been listening to funk seriously listening to it since the 90s. So I think we got a little knowledge.
We heard it growing up because that's what was around.
Yeah, we grew up around it, and then in the 90s that Rhino box set came out, and you and I both bought it, and we were just fucking and that was
great shit.
Right as the internet was coming along. It's not like you could Google a whole lot of shit about it at the time.
Yeah.
But since then we've it's one of I think both of our favorite genres for sure.
Yeah. And that playlist, you put that on and you're grooving, man. It's great in the car. The best way to listen to it really is to just hit random and let it groove its own way, to quote Hendrix,
The other thing you want to do, these bands we mentioned, Parliament, The Meters, Tower of Power, Kool and the Gang, to make a discography playlist of all their 70s stuff off of Spotify.
Them, Great shit, man.
Such good stuff.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with it. You really can't.
That is true. Yep. All right.
Well, this is dedicated to Sly. We lost him last week.
Yeah. Sly Stone is no more.
He's left the building, kids.
Yeah.
But left a lot of music behind to check out. So
there you have it.
All right.
Well, peace out. We got more stuff coming. So
right on, kids.
Stay tuned. And deuces. Yeah, somebody's got to say it.